Oh, yes, the cinema doors are open, the door into where you keep your big telly, because Van Connor's on hand, as he is each and every Friday, with 1, 2, 3 Freeview film recommendations. I match his 3 with 3 of my own. And this morning, Van, good morning, matey, how's your week been?
All good, Mr. Ross, can't complain. Saw Free Guy last night, lot of fun.
Excellent news. Okay, in fact, this morning, the movie selections have got a distinct James Bond feel.
They do, don't they?
Oh, yes, because your first one is a bit of a cracker. Tell us about your first selection, ITV4, 9 o'clock tonight. It's a Pierce Brosnan classic, isn't it?
It is. I actually watched this one this week, and it does for me, when you think about it in sort of, retrospect, answer the question, how do you follow up James Bond facing off against evil James Bond, which is effectively the plot of GoldenEye.
Yeah.
You put him up against Rupert Murdoch, and that's effectively the plot of Tomorrow Never Dies. I mean, it's played as Jonathan Pryce plays the villain of Tomorrow Never Dies like Rupert Murdoch, although it's allegedly more based on Robert Maxwell, as intended to be played by Anthony Hopkins, who turned this down, some would say somewhat wisely, to take The Mask of Zorro from 1998 instead.
Oh, that was a turkey with a lot of feathers, that film, I thought.
It was, but it did have Martin Campbell, director of GoldenEye, helm me, and I think it works quite well. I think that's a low-key underrated swashbuckler, but a low-key underrated movie as well is Tomorrow Never Dies, in which Bond, of course, takes on the media mogul, teaming up with Wayland, played by Michelle Yeoh, along the way. And it's played as a sort of a 90s pitched post-Cold War remake of The Spy Who Loved Me, in that it sort of follows the same template, but it's dealing with the media instead of outright traditional nuclear war and oceanic flooding.
And it has got Terry Hatcher looking rather fetching indeed, which you can't wait. You've got a clip for something, haven't you?
I have indeed. So this is the requisite bit you've got to have in every movie. Here are M and Moneypenny and Bond having one of those wonderfully innuendo-laden debriefs that they do.
Here we go.
I believe you once had a relationship with Carver's wife, Paris.
That was a long time ago, Em. Before she was married. I didn't realize it was public knowledge.
Queen and country, James. Your job is to find out whether Carver or someone in his organization sent that ship off course and why. Use your relationship with Mrs. Carver if necessary.
I doubt if she'll remember me.
Remind her. Then pump her for information. You'll just have to decide how much pumping is needed, James.
If only that were true of you and I, Moneypenny.
I mean, Dame Judi Dench delivering that line with a straight face. I love the way old Dame Judy says, why? Pronouncing the H in the middle of it as well. There's posh for you, isn't it? So that's Tomorrow Never Dies. It's tonight, 9 o'clock, ITV4. I've gone for one of my guilty pleasure movies. This was released in 1986. It's 35 years old now. It's Martin Short. It's Chevy Chase. It's Steve Martin, when he was still very funny indeed, before he decided... I mean, the thing is, he's still got funny bones. He often tours with Martin Short. I love this film. It's the three amigos, set kind of in a weird version of the silent movie era, when they're recruited by mistake. It's a bit like Galaxy Quest, but done with Western stars, isn't it? They're recruited by villagers who think they're three amigos Western silent movie characters are actually great gunslingers, and they go down to try and help protect a village from some rampaging bandidos. It's 4:45 this afternoon on Film 4. Who doesn't love this movie? I mean, it's stupid, but it's funny, isn't it?
Oh, it's an absolute classic. I think this is probably John Landis's most underrated movie, I say, because he has very little to do with it beyond the shooting of it. He at the time, I think he was having the whole Twilight Zone trial going on, because I think a lot of people had died in a helicopter accident.
Vic Morrow and people died, didn't they, filming that?
Yeah, filming the Twilight Zone. So he was in court dealing with that whilst they were doing the post-production on this. I think he edited it and he had a hard time with it, but he and the actors apparently didn't get on, and then Chevy Chase would change his story later on and say it was the best experience of his life. It's a very weird one. There seems to be no two people took this movie the same way, and yet we all seem to think of it as this sort of underrated classic comedy banger that's given us such great modern contemporary hits as like A Bug's Life and Galaxy Quest.
And of course you've got Randy Newman writing some of the songs in it and helping with the script. Lorne Michaels, who created Saturday Night Live with Steve Martin, actually wrote it. So that's on this afternoon, Film 4, 4:45. Going for your next choice, though, it's an ITV2 film. It's 10 to 7. It's Rampage. Who doesn't love a bit of The Rock?
Right, this is one of the dumbest pitches for a movie I've ever heard, because even if you get past the fact that it's The Rock taking on a giant monkey, a giant wolf, and a giant alligator, you still have to deal with...
You had me at giant monkey.
It is. The whole thing is pitched as The Rock is like a zoologist who has a giant monkey friend that he communicates with via sign language. And his monkey friend then gets exposed to like an alien isotope that turns him into a skyscraper-sized monkey. The same isotope then turns an alligator and a wolf into mutant versions of themselves. But the wolf even flies, I think. And all of this somehow seems less ridiculous than the idea that The Rock, as well as being a zoologist and fluent in ASL, is also a qualified pilot and at sometimes even a sort of G.I. Joe type and a medical doctor when the plot requires him to be. It's one of the most bizarre movies you've ever seen. And all of this involves all of these animals basically laying waste to Chicago and The Rock and Naomi Harris being the only people who can stop them.
And of course it's based on some bonkers video game as well, isn't it?
It's based on an arcade game. The funny part is, I can make the argument for this being the best video game movie ever made, and it's still absolute lunacy. But don't take my word for it. Just absolutely check this out for yourself on ITV2. 7:50 6:50 on Saturday afternoon. Perfect tea time family video game rom, but it is just lunacy.
And it made money, though. I think it cost around $140 million. It made almost $500 million when it was released. So a big smash hit. I'm amazed there's not been a sequel. You've got a clip for us, I think, Van.
I haven't. So this is a promotional reel they put out. This is promoting the relationship between, I believe it's The Rock and his friend George.
Here we go.
It's weird. You like hang out with animals more than people.
Yeah, well, animals get me. I rescued George. He was 2 years old. George never would have survived on his own.
He definitely trusts you.
He's not just a friend. He's family. Don't move a muscle.
Are you crazy?
No! Don't move! Okay. Very funny. You and I laughing at your joke. New guy, he no laugh. He cry. You can get up now.
And check your diaper. Come on.
That's the only way to speak to a monkey. He no laugh, he cry like your Tarzan. So that's Rampage. That's tomorrow afternoon, evening, 10 minutes to 7 p.m. on ITV2. Meanwhile, I've gone for, well, I've done this partly because Louis Armstrong, or Lewis, I think the Americans pronounce it, would have been 120 years old this week had he been spared. He was an amazingly influential musician, as we know, at the end of Manhattan, that great Woody Allen film, black and white film, when I felt comfortable watching Woody Allen movies. He does a list of things that make life worth living. And he says Frank Sinatra, Marlon Brando. He says Louis Armstrong's recording of Potato Head Blues. Well, this film has got Louis Armstrong, not doing that number. It has got Frank Sinatra. It's got Bing Crosby. It's got Grace Kelly. It's a musical version of the Philadelphia Story, that great film from the early 1940s. Jimmy Stewart, Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn. And basically it's about a higher society wedding, and some reporters kind of are invited along grudgingly because they may have some dirt on the father of the bride, played here by Grace Kelly. Some lovely Cole Porter songs. I mean, just beautiful, beautiful songs. It is, of course, high society, but it's going to be a bit of a... We've got the Met Office standing by, right? I think it's going to be a damp weekend. This, for me, would be, if you're not listening to the football on talkSPORT, this will be a great rainy Saturday afternoon musical treat for the family. It's high society, and here are Bing Crosby, Louis Armstrong, singing up a storm, telling you that now you has jazz.
Hey, Pops, you want to grab a little of what's left here? Believe I do indeed.
Less likely to sing rock and roll than Bing Crosby, and this has got, of course, Well Did You Ever, Frank Sinatra and Bing Crosby cracking each other up. It's got a rather rude joke in that song. I don't know if you know that. You know, it's, have you heard it's in the stars? Next July we collide with Mars. Well, there's a line that it says, have you heard of Mimsy Starr? She got pinched in the ass de bar. Which is a very rude joke in 1956, was it not? So, who doesn't love a bit of high society? No big dance numbers, great songs, and just a very funny, sweet Technicolor movie. Do you like this film, Mervan?
I do. Am I right in thinking that this is the movie that Who Wants to Be a Millionaire originally comes from?
Absolutely, which gave us, of course, the quiz show title, but brilliant, so, you know, flashy flunkies at the Met and all that stuff. So, Cole Porter, one of his finest hours, some great songs. It's Saturday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, 3 o'clock. Meanwhile, we go now to my recommendation on the Bond front. Back to ITV4, obviously having a Bond weekend, ITV4. 1:45, the original Bond film, Dr. No from 1962. It was made for around $1 million. It made, first time out, $60 million. Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman were involved in it. And in fact, I think they may have paid $100,000 for the rights they had to buy, I think. Or no, they spent $100,000 reshooting the end so they could build Dr. No's base. But the original screenplay, written in part by Wolf Mankiewicz, featured Dr. No, I don't know if you know this, rumour has it as a mutant, hyper-intelligent monkey. I'd love to see that version made, wouldn't you?
I absolutely would. Having said that, I'm still not entirely unconvinced that Rami Malek's not going to turn out to be like a prequel version of Dr. No when we finally get No Time to Die into cinemas, if it comes out when it's supposed to next month.
Brilliant stuff, of course. Things that were in the book that weren't in the film include James Bond battling a giant squid. Even so, it is an absolutely cracking film. 1:45, Sunday afternoon, ITV4. So it will be 60 years old next year when it's Dr. No. Meanwhile, your final recommendation is on great exclamation mark movies, 5 o'clock Sunday afternoon. Remind us about the Jane Austen inspired Clueless.
Well, I mean, they're kind of living up to their title lately, great movies, to be honest. They seem to have added a bunch of new titles of late, and Clueless being one of them. So they are actually living up to their channel name. I've got to give them that. So this is Amy Heckerling's 1995 reworking of Jane Austen's Emma, which basically asks the question, what if you took that exact novel and just set it in a Beverly Hills high school with a then fresh off the Aerosmith videos Alicia Silverstone? And the result is probably one of the most seminal teen comedies of the last 40 years, like post-1980s, post the John Hughes wave of teen movies. Clueless is one of the heaviest hitters. It is an absolute icon that wound up setting this sort of template of, for other trailblazers. Things like Buffy the Vampire Slayer come out of Clueless, this idea of treating teenagers like they are a culture and a language unto themselves. Kind of begins with Clueless, but it is all about that star-making turn from Alicia Silverstone as the matchmaking Cher Horowitz, who you'll hear in this clip. So this is at 5 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. Again, great time for this film, but this is Cher basically waxing lyrical on the value of dating within her social pool.
Valley Girls meet Jane Austen. Here we go.
Woman, why don't you be answering any of my pages?
I hate when you call me woman.
Where you been all weekend? What's up? You jeeping behind my back?
Jeeping?
Jeeping.
No, but speaking of vehicular sex, perhaps you can explain how this cheap Kmart hair extension got into the backseat of your car.
I don't know where that came from. That looks like one of your little stringy something or another's you got up in your hair.
I do not wear polyester hair, okay? Unlike some people I know, like Shawana. See, I'm outie. Bye.
Why do you gotta go there? Why do you gotta go there? Is it that time of the month again?
I don't know why Dion's going out with a high school boy. They're like dogs. You have to clean them and feed them, and they're just like these nervous creatures that jump and slobber all over you.
Ew! Get off of me! Ugh, as if.
Some things never change. Van, remind us where we can hear you and Rebecca Perfect. She joins us on Monday for a showbiz overview in podcast form.
You can hear us this morning, 6 a.m. on podcast platforms on the Off-Screen Show, delivering up your ultimate 7-day guide to everything movie, streaming, theatrical, and TV.
Cracking listen, and he joins us each and every Friday. There's Van Connor there, the main man when it comes to all Freeview movies for us. On the way, how you can get a chunk of £25,000, plus the weather for the weekend, courtesy of Marco Patania.